Today, Democrats worry after Biden struggles through the first debate, Ursula von der Leyen is nominated for a second term, and the world prepares for a series of elections. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Friday the 28th of June 2024. Last night, President Biden and former President Trump engaged in the first of two scheduled debates. The two candidates discussed inflation, the border, immigration, foreign policy, childcare, among many other topics. The debate was a muted affair compared to the first debate 4 years ago between the two candidates, but there were many key aspects to dissect. The first of these was that Biden appeared to be slow, quiet, and stumbled a lot with his responses. For instance, when attacking Trump on his tax cuts and the national debt, Biden stumbled and stated that he finally beat Medicare, a confusing response which Trump seized on, stating that Biden indeed beat Medicare and beat it to death. When Biden was discussing immigration and the border, he ended his answer in a very disjointed way, that Trump stated he had no idea what Biden had said, and that Biden did not either.
The total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Other mistakes, such as incorrectly stating how much his administration lowered the price of insulin by, mixing up terms like billions and millions many times, and spending the night playing defense instead of attacking Trump. When he was not speaking, Biden also often had his mouth open, eyes wide, and looked frail in many moments of the debate. Trump, meanwhile, did not change tactics during the debate, often repeating campaign statements and messaging. He stated that abortion should be left up to individual states, that NATO members were not paying their fair share, and claimed that inflation was a result of Biden and his policies. However, Trump continued to assert that the 2020 election was rigged, did not dispute President Biden's claim that he wanted to pardon January the 6th rioters, and refused to state that he would accept the results of the election, saying he would only do so if it was fair and legal. The response by Democrats following the debate was somber, with Politico reporting that many Democratic operatives viewed Biden's performance as terrible, below expectations, and some even stated that he should be replaced at the Democratic convention in August. Viewers also seemed to back up this sentiment, as 67% of debate viewers said that Trump won the debate, compared to 33% who said Biden won. The only saving grace for Biden is that the election is still months away, and whilst Democrats may not want Biden, dropping him from the ticket is likely not going to happen without Biden stepping down, a notion he has repeatedly shot down. The 2024 US election between Trump and Biden, with this debate, is entering its main phase, and while Republicans may have quarrels with Trump's rhetoric and Democrats with Biden's age, this debate likely did not alleviate any of those concerns. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing next week. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Andy Pipkin, then consider joining the new TLDR membership program for just $1.99. EU leaders have agreed to formally nominate Ursula von der Leyen for a second term as European Commission President, a move that only now needs to be sealed with a majority vote in the newly elected European Parliament. As well as agreeing to nominate von der Leyen, EU leaders nominated two new faces to other key EU leadership roles. They nominated Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas as the bloc's foreign policy chief, replacing Spaniard Josep Borrell, while also appointing former Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa to become the new president of the European Council, the body made up of the leaders of each EU member state. As usual, the three politicians come from the three mainstream European political groupings: von der Leyen from the centre-right European People's Party, Kallas from the centrist Renew Europe, and Costa from the centre-left Socialists and Democrats. Von der Leyen now needs to be approved by the European Parliament before she can be sure of her second term, and it could be a knife-edge vote. On paper, she has the backing of the three mainstream groups, but a number of MEPs are expected to defect in the secret vote. Von der Leyen had previously been courting Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's ECR group, but Meloni seems to have soured on von der Leyen in frustration at being left out of negotiations for the top jobs. As such, Meloni herself abstained in the council vote on von der Leyen's nomination, while voting against Costa and Kallas. The Chinese Communist Party has expelled two former defense ministers for corruption, Wei Fenghe and Li Shangfu, who disappeared from public view along with other senior figures last year. The accusations against the two men include accepting gifts and money and facilitating improper benefits for others. Li was sacked as defense minister last October after serving in the position for just 7 months, 2 months after he disappeared from the public eye. Wei was defense minister immediately before Li, having served since 2018. This was followed by a series of dramatic reshuffles in China's military leadership, which, according to analysts, was an attempt to break patronage networks, as China's president, Xi Jinping, has made anti-corruption a key pillar of his leadership. In December, 3 senior aerospace and defense industry executives were removed from a top CCP advisory body. And Qin Gang, a former foreign minister who has not been seen in public for a year, was also sacked without explanation last year after a brief stint in office. The military purge is thought to be related to an investigation announced last year into corruption in military procurement. The third plenum, a meeting of the party's central committee, will confirm the removal of the 2 ministers and other disgraced officials next month. Now, the world is gearing up for a number of elections today and over the weekend, with millions of people due to head to the polls. Today, Friday the 28th, is the Iranian presidential election, likely to be the first round of 2, to replace the late president Ebrahim Raisi, who was killed in a helicopter crash in May. Turnout will be key, as a single reformist candidate is up against several hardline conservatives. Also being held today is the parliamentary election in Mongolia, a relatively young democracy sandwiched between 2 giant authoritarian neighbours, Russia and China. Mongolian voters will elect a newly expanded 126-seat parliament, with the incumbent centre-left Mongolian People's Party favoured to win, though perhaps with a smaller majority. Tomorrow, Saturday the 29th, will see the Northwest African nation of Mauritania elect a president, with incumbent president Mohamed Ould Ghazouani seeking re-election, having been first elected in 2019 in what was the country's first peaceful democratic transfer of power. Then finally, on Sunday, France will hold the first round of its snap legislative elections that were called by President Macron, and looks set to deliver his alliance a bruising result and tip France into greater political uncertainty. Polls show Marine Le Pen's far-right Rassemblement National out in the lead with roughly 35% of the vote, with the pan-left-wing alliance, the Nouveau Front Populaire, in second on around 28%, and Macron's Ensemble alliance in a distant third on around 20%. Finally, in today's uplifting story, we feature the first Indonesian band to play at Glastonbury, Europe's biggest music festival. Voice of Bacaprot are a trio of women, 24-year-old lead singer Firda Marcia Kurnia, 24-year-old drummer Ai Siti Aisyah, and 23-year-old bassist Widi Rahmawati, who started making heavy metal at secondary school. The band has become recognised internationally for challenging gender and religious norms, with the Red Hot Chili Peppers' Flea once tweeting, "I am so down with Voice of Bacaprot." When they found out they'd been invited to play at Glastonbury, the band was so stunned that they said they didn't know what to do next. They're performing today, so if you're watching TLDR from that hallowed field in Somerset, pop along to their set and check them out for yourself.
Now, before we finish today's briefing, I wanted to quickly tell you about the project we're working on called Too Long. Too Long is our new physical magazine that we will be releasing 3 times a year, running you through all of the key news events in more detail, and sometimes more intelligently than is possible on YouTube, with us able to choose the topics we think truly matter most, and taking the time necessary to explain them, rather than being constrained by algorithms or click-through rates like we are on YouTube. Now, it's worth clarifying, this really is a serious, high-quality magazine we're printing, full of interesting journalism with graphics to bring the stories to life. The first edition we're working on is our UK election special, so it'll run through the results of the election and discuss how the victors plan to rebuild Britain in a number of key policy areas. And the other half of the paper is dedicated to news around the world, including the European elections, France's snap election, Hungary's upcoming EU presidency, the ongoing wars in Ukraine and Gaza, the tensions between US and China, and Japan's polycrisis, and of course, the US election. So if you are interested and want to support the channel, we'd really appreciate you considering picking up a copy. Click the link in the description to learn more. Plus, if you use TLDR Daily, you'll get £2 off any order. Thank you for your support, and thanks for watching the Daily Briefing.